Welcome to our community. Susie Thomas with you this morning. We are so happy to welcome Marissa Lotzenheiser and Sebastian Tees, both from the Middle Tuscarawas River watershed, formerly known as Huff Run Watershed. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So why the name change, Marissa?
Sure. We are very excited that our geography has been slowly expanding. We've been working in smaller tributaries like Huff Run and Mud Run since 1996. But all of the water in those small streams eventually flow into the Tuscarawas River. So our funding has shifted a little bit and our scope of work has grown. So now we are saying that we are focused on the Middle Tuscarawas River, which is anywhere between Canton and Coshocton.
And I think people would be surprised to hear that.
It's a pretty big area.
Bigger staff or just more work?
The same amount of staff, more work. Mm-hmm. Amazing how they don't make extra hours.
And isn't that amazing? I know, the day stays the same. But however, I remember you did quite a bit before. So let's talk about, before we get into fun Camp Watershed that's going to be happening, let's talk about the watershed itself for those who might not understand exactly what that term means and what we're talking about here.
Sure. A lot of what we do is explain the words that we use because the language can sometimes be technical and scare people away from engaging with our work. Watershed is a term used to describe an area of land that all drains to one low point. So when it rains in Canton, all of that water goes to the Nimishillen Creek, which eventually flows into the Tuscarawas River. That's why we say that Canton is part of the Tuscarawas River watershed. Mm-hmm. And the Tusk is a large watershed. It actually collects water all the way up in Summit County, right near the south of Akron, all the way down to Coshocton, where the Tuscarawas River flows in with the Walhonding River to make the Muskingum River. So watershed is just the term used to describe the area of land that all collects the same water.
Okay.
And we are focused mainly in the Stark, Tusk, Carroll area.
Recently, to when we're sitting down and recording this, we experienced a flash flood here in the Canton area. What happens to all that water? Does it come down faster, and are you able to handle it?
That's a really good point. So our part of Ohio is really unique in the sense that we live in a pretty controlled watershed. Back in the 30s, they built a series of dams and reservoirs, and a lot of people know them as recreational lakes. Atwood Lake, Leesville, Piedmont, people fish and camp. But those play a really important role in storing water. So whenever there is a flash flood event, those reservoirs and all of the water in Canton eventually drains down to the Bolivar Reservoir, which is a pass-through, meaning that there isn't a lake there all the time. But whenever it does flood, like you said, you had a flash flood event, that holding of water expands, and then they can let it out slowly. And that's all done so that it reduces the flooding risk in Marietta, in Cincinnati, all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico.
Are you? My goodness. Okay, so you're saying that they thought ahead when they were making these fun. We thought they were just fun places.
Most people know them as beautiful places to sail their boats and fish, but they play a really, really important role in storing water so that they can slowly let it go.
On purpose or good happenstance?
On purpose.
On purpose.
All of those lakes were built after, I believe it was the Great Flood of 1913.
Someone said.
They had a lot of deaths in Ohio related to flooding. It took them a couple years to get started, but they built the dams in the 30s, and then they've been utilizing them ever since. In the springtime is when we have the most flooding because we get a lot of rain for all those spring flowers, combined with the snow melt of what's already been building up all winter. And so we have a lot of flooding in Tuscarawas County because all the water is coming down from Starr County and being released. So it is it's a very exact science. They can control it to 1/10 of an inch of flooding so that certain roads stay open and people can evacuate when need be.
Do we need to be concerned at a certain point, you would say, okay, this is all the water we can handle. And then you just let everybody know, get out.
Get out.
What do you do?
Luckily, I don't think we've ever reached that point. I think the closest we came was in 2008. We had a lot of flooding, and it was within 10 feet of being at the max capacity.
I remember seeing pictures of, yes, and Zor, you couldn't get in. Some people were having to boat out of their houses to get to the grocery store.
Yep.
But that was within 10 feet. That seems awfully close to being maximum.
It seems close. It makes me very happy to live on a hill.
Yeah, no kidding.
So we and you know, flooding is related to a lot of things. Rivers naturally flood. You know, that's part of the water cycle.
Mm-hmm.
But as we continue to build houses and we want, you know, our beautiful riverside buildings, well, then we get mad when they get flooded. But floodplains are very important for the ecological health of rivers,
yes,
for the ability to flood. And then even as we continue to expand in urban areas like Canton, all of that imperviousness builds up. So the water, like you said, with flash floods, the water just runs a lot faster,
mm-hmm,
where it would have before had time to soak into the ground. Now there's pavement where there used to be soil.
Right. Are we unusual, Marissa? It seems like we have this wealth of plenty of water. What does that mean to our economy, for instance? Are we a little rare in that?
I think that Ohio is blessed with our natural resources.
Mm-hmm.
We have this beautiful lake to the north, Lake Erie, full of fresh water. But then the rest of our state is bordered and drains to the Ohio River. So when you look at our economy, really a lot of the reason that Ohio was settled, our first towns in Marietta and so on and so forth, they were connected. Cleveland is on Lake Erie because it's a port city. Our economy has grown out from the ability to be able to trade and to transport people and things on bodies of water. So I think that our rivers and our lakes play a huge part of that.
So your job is to educate us, or what else do you get to do?
Sure, it's fun. Sebastian and I have a varied job description. We get to do a lot of education because for some reason this really important information hasn't made its way into most school curriculums yet. So we get to do a lot of education with both adults and children, but then we also want to protect the really high quality water that we have around here, mm-hmm, and at the same time help restore streams and rivers that have become polluted. So we do some field work where we're actually getting water samples or animal samplings, and then we're able to equate those results into projects, either to preserve a really pristine wetland or to maybe restore a section of stream that's eroding and adding a lot of sediment to the water.
I'm going to get to you, Sebastian, I promise. But I must know this. Does the pattern of streams change, like dry up in some areas and then move over to another place, because water's always going to try and find a place to go? And does that affect where the houses have been built?
That's a great question. And a lot of people, we have pretty short-term memories, right, as humans.
Yes, very.
We forget that rivers are constantly changing, and you hit it right on the mark. Water will always take the easiest route. Whenever I talk to kids, I say that water's really lazy, right? It's never going to run up a hill.
No, that's right.
So water is constantly changing its course. If a tree falls in a river, a lot of debris will catch on that tree, and the water will flow around it, right? Because it's easier than flowing over top of it. So rivers and streams do naturally change, and it becomes an issue when we've built houses and roads, and then we get very upset when water is trying to come right next to our house or our road.
So a good place to be a basement sealer company is right in this area.
Certainly.
Okay, if you're looking for a business to go into or open, it seems like that would be smart. Sebastian, Camp Watershed, tell me all about it.
Well, Camp Watershed is a major event that we have in our office every year during the summer. It's usually in late July. And what it is it's a 5-day long camp that we have for kids ages 8 to 12. And they get dropped off with us at Tuscarora Park in New Philadelphia. And they're with us from 8 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon. And what the kids do is they join us on tours of sites that we have and different facilities around the area that deal with water quality so that the kids can learn about how water is either dealt with like in a floodplain, like with dams, or how it's filtered and made clean. We also have a lot of activities for the kids to do. This year we have the Akron Mobile Zoo coming
Neat.
Show the kids some local animals. And we've also got some activities for them to do in the water. So they can grab a net. We can show them how to collect bugs. So collecting bugs is something
Neat.
that we do in our work to assess the quality of a stream. And so we're going to teach the kids how to do that. And in the past, the kids have a lot of fun with that. They like to get into the water.
And collect bugs.
Yeah, it's a very enjoyable activity.
Is that what encouraged you to go into this as a career?
It's not. I actually didn't know that collecting bugs was such an important part of this job.
Interesting.
What attracted me to this position was the whole water quality aspect. So human health is something that I'm very interested in, and with a job like this, it's very close to how people live with water. So it's very health oriented.
It's something we cannot do without.
Exactly.
You have to have it, or there's not life. I've got to know, how in the world do you make the activities so interesting that you drop kids off at Tuscarora Park and say, okay, come away from all the rides, everybody. We're going to go look at bugs in the water.
Well, I think just being outdoors helps a lot. Kids love to be outdoors. They love to be doing things interactive with nature. I guess we have to owe it a lot to just the great outdoors to keep them so entertained for, several hours every day.
Do they get to do any of the rides? You don't do it. That's not any part of it at all at Camp Watershed?
We usually take advantage of the playgrounds, but the rides, I feel like the best time to do the rides are in the evening when
You're
it's
right.
actually cooler.
Yes.
And by that point, we've
Worn them out.
and shipped them back home.
Okay. And if mom and dad want to let them ride on the roller coaster before they head home, that's up to mom and dad, right?
Right.
Well, what a perfect place to gather because it's so beautiful there. And everyone knows where that is. So nice on you. From there, is everything taking place in that area, or do you bus over to like another area and look at everything going on with as far as the water?
We will be busing, I think, every day. So we
Okay.
meet in New Philadelphia, but most of our activities are going to be outside of the city. So we'll be in Mineral City a lot. We'll be up north. We'll be going to the Wilderness Center.
Oh, nice.
In Wilmot.
Of course.
So we're going to be outside of the city fairly often.
Is there a limit to how many children can participate?
Our max limit is 25.
Okay.
And we still do have some spots available.
But I'm going to guess very few, so don't dilly-dally.
Don't dilly-dally.
And
Sign up.
I understand today is the last day to register.
Yes.
The 13th today.
Yes. Friday the 13th.
Oh, well, good.
It's a lucky day.
It sure is. Why did you focus in on the ages of 8 to 12? Any particular reason?
I think that the kids are old enough to, go on these kind of adventures to different places, and they're still old enough to understand, kind of the processes behind the work that we're doing, and it's a good age for them to appreciate what we're trying to show them. But they're also young enough to kind of see like the fun in it and just to enjoy being there.
Always fun seeing the wonder in a child's eyes when they're learning something brand new. It's so cool. How can they register for Camp Watershed and do it like right now?
We have our event posted on Facebook. So if you go to the Huff Run or the Mud Run Watershed pages on Facebook, there will be a link to registration.
Just go to Facebook and look up Huff Run Watershed.
That's right.
Okay, and it will be there. A link to register.
Yep.
Awesome. Do it today because this is the last day to be able to. So if you've got an 8 to 12-year-old, this would be just a wonderful experience for them. We, looking at the clock, need to take a short break. We'll be back after these words. You're listening to Our Community.